After you've finished working on the worksheets using the ideal gas law and the equations related to the ideal gas law, you're going to do a lab where you find the molar mass of a volatile liquid. First of all, what does volatile mean? It has two meanings. One means that it boils at a very low temperature, and the other means that it's flammable. Both of those things don't have to be true for a liquid to be called volatile, but in this case the liquids that you use are going to both evaporate at a very low temperature and they're going to be flammable. So at no point will we have any flames in the lab. Come ready to do the lab, having read the lab handout, having watched this video and taken your own pre-lab notes, having completed the pre-lab questions, and having made a data table. You may do this lab by yourself or with a partner. We're going to try to avoid groups of 3 or larger. A couple minor details. For every mass you record, make sure you use the analytical scale. We're not going to have very many sig figs here, so we're going to have to use that. In order to use the scale, take a very small beaker and tare it on the scale, and then just use that to hold the test tube while you're recording the masses, and just leave it there for the next person. Before you do anything else, I suggest that you start a large beaker about half full with tap water, heating on a hot plate. You're going to need that, and it'll be better if it's getting hot while you're working on other things. You can set it to medium or high. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a test tube. Alright, so you got yourself a test tube, and you're going to record its mass. Again, make sure you use the analytical scale. Okay? And then we're going to put about half of a milliliter, okay, so not very much, of the volatile liquid that I give you. Well, how do you measure out half a milliliter? It's pretty easy. Since 1 milliliter is about 20 drops, you're just going to add about 10 drops of the liquid to the bottom of your test tube. Okay, go ahead, insert the cork, and there's no reason to weigh it at this point. Okay, all you have is your liquid in your test tube with a cork, and you're going to notice that your cork has a hole in it. When you heat this up, it's going to allow vapor to escape. Okay. So this slide's a little busy, but basically you're going to have one large beaker, the one you've been heating. Okay. You're going to take your test tube with the cork and the liquid, and you're going to put it in the beaker. And I know this thing does not look like a clamp, but I tried. I sink at drawing. That's your test tube clamp. Okay, the idea is to use that to hold the test tube in place. Without it, the test tube will just float to the top. So you're going to hold it in place so that the lip of the test tube is just above the water. Okay, we don't want water to get into the test tube, but we don't want the level of the water to be much lower than the lip. As long as it's, about where I've drawn it, or maybe about there, you'll be okay. You're also going to put a thermometer in there. Okay, so immerse the test tube in water. Use the clamp to hold it down and keep the lid of the test tube above the water. Alright, you're going to heat it to boiling. Okay, and when it boils, this liquid in here, which has a very low boiling point, will start to vaporize. And remember, there's a hole in the cork, so vapor will start to come out. You probably won't see it. But eventually you'll notice that there's no liquid left in the bottom. Okay. The vapor will continue to escape until the pressure inside the test tube is exactly equal to the pressure outside the test tube. Okay. To start with, when I heat it, I have lots and lots of vapor inside the test tube, so it's got a larger pressure inside the test tube, so the vapor escapes. When the atmospheric pressure is just equal to the pressure inside the test tube, it will stop escaping. You won't really be able to see exactly when this happens. So when your liquid is vaporized, when you don't see any more liquid, heat it, boil it for about 3 more minutes. Okay? Just before you take it out of the hot water in the beaker, you need to record the temperature of the water. Okay? So make sure you record your temperature, because the temperature of the boiling water, we're going to assume, is the temperature of the vapor inside the test tube. Everything at that point should be at the same temperature. You're going to take your test tube and quickly place it into an ice bath. So while you're waiting for this to heat, you probably would take another beaker and get an ice bath going. So some water and some ice, and then you put the test tube into the ice bath, and the vapor in the test tube will go ahead and condense, and you'll end up with some liquid in the bottom. Okay, you still got your cork in here because leave it in there until it looks like the liquid has condensed. Okay, you'll be able to tell because there was no liquid and now there is. Take the test tube out. Okay, dry it, then remove the cork and weigh it quickly. Okay, so make sure you dry it first. Okay, don't remove the cork until you're right about ready to weigh it, and then go ahead and weigh it. We can't weigh it with the cork in there because the cork absorbs water and it's going to throw our weight off like horribly if we leave it in there. Okay, so you take it out of the hot water bath, you put it into an ice water bath, let it cool, and then dry the test tube, remove the cork, and then weigh it. Okay. At this point we have almost everything we need except the volume of the test tube. So clean out the test tube, just kind of dump it down the sink and rinse it with some water. Okay. Fill it up with water, insert the cork, okay, that way we'll have the exact same volume we had before. Remove the cork, and then go ahead and weigh the test tube. Okay? I don't know why I wrote weigh twice. So weigh your test tube, because then the mass of the water inside your test tube will give you the volume of the water, okay, which will give you the volume of the test tube. For instance, just making it up, but what if I had 20 grams of water in there? Well, that means I had 20 milliliters of water in there, which means the volume of the test tube is 20 milliliters. Okay? Make sure you record your barometric pressure, like we learned earlier, before you leave the room. Okay? And before you come to class, make yourself a data table. It should look something like this sample data table. We need the mass of the test tube. We need the mass of the test tube in the liquid after it's heated, right? We don't care before. We need the temperature of the boiling water bath. We need the barometric pressure. And we need the mass of the test tube and the water. And then the calculations are outlined pretty carefully in the handout. All right.